Tipp today in association with Slattery's of Pecan, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. Slattery'sGarage.ie.
Good morning, welcome along to Tipp Today. 1800 938 007. That's our free phone number if you want to give us a call, and Leanne is producing. Coming up on the show today, we'll be hearing from Deputy Seamus Healy in just a few moments' time. Members of the IFA ended their sit-in protest at Bord Bia after 28 days, but what now? The monastic community of Our Lady of Silence will be departing the Cistercian College in Roscrea. Will chat about that. Musician Gay Brazel, my good friend Gay Brazel, will be with us with Tales from the Road and issues with public lighting in Cashel. And river transplant recipient Willie O'Gorman will talk to us about a fundraiser that's coming up. So all of that and more on the way. You can text and WhatsApp 083 311 3311. You can email tiptoday@tippfm.com. Let's have a look at the front pages of some of your newspapers now. It's Wednesday, so the local papers are on the shelves. The Tipperary Star and their front page, community celebrates 180,000 bop for a bus fundraiser success at Skullcormac in Cashel. That is making their headline there. The Nina Guardian. And the main story by Simon Duffy there, the commencement of the long-awaited upgrade of Nina's wastewater treatment plant paves the way for the town's future growth, creating capacity for potentially 3,000 new homes. And it's dominated by a picture of the sod being turned there with the headline, "A very good day for Nina." The Nationalist, the lead story on the Nationalist today, Gardaí strike big in Tipperary raid. Gardaí sees firearms, a stolen vehicle, 10 dogs and €70,000 worth of cocaine in Tipperary raids. Also lots inside of the Nationalist, including that story on the €3.2 million made available for hospital projects in the south of the county. Let's go to the national newspapers, to the Indo. And they're leading with the story that the most vulnerable will be prioritised to travel home first as the government charters flights out of the Gulf region. The Foreign Affairs Minister, Helen McEntee, said about 280 people could fit on the first plane out, but with up to 24,000 Irish in the region, it could be the first of many. The Irish Daily Mail, the lead story on the Mail, almost 150 lives would have been saved in the past 7 years if Ireland had a doctor-led helicopter emergency team, the Health Minister has been told. Ireland remains seemingly one of the few countries where doctors do not always attend emergency incidents to provide pre-hospital medical treatment for trauma patients and victims of accidents. To the Irish Times. And the lead story on the Times today takes us to the Middle East, and Iran broadened the scope of its drone and missile strikes on US allies across the Gulf yesterday as the US President Donald Trump and leading White House officials continued to offer contradictory accounts about the rationale for getting involved in a volatile conflict which has killed an estimated 800 people so far. Also reading on the Times today that the impact of the Middle East conflict on Irish consumers has been immediate, with home heating oil prices soaring and motor fuel also climbing. The price of home heating oil has sparked particular concern, with the cost rising by almost 40% since last Friday, can you believe? And Pat brought you some information there about what's happening at the fuel pumps as well, so a bit of gouging going on, I'm sure you'll agree. And the Irish Examiner leading with that story as well. Taoiseach Micheál Martin has accused fuel companies of price gouging as fears over the escalating conflict in the Middle East spark surging petrol and home heating oil prices. Also reading on the Examiner today that a special school in Cork, previously highlighted for its suspensions crisis, has closed to work through a number of issues, including dysregulation among pupils and injuries sustained by staff as well. And finally, on the front page of the Examiner. The family of a Cork woman who died in hospital from a COVID infection has settled a High Court action over her death in the first case of its kind here. And in the proceedings, it was claimed that Betty Carroll had blood cancer and was, as a result, vulnerable to contracting infection. So let's look at what's making headlines today. If you'd like to make comment on any of those headlines, 083 311 3311. Glad to be joined now by Independent Deputy for Tipperary, Seamus Healy. Good morning to you, Seamus.
Good morning, friend.
Good to talk to you today. A few things to talk to, but just current stuff if I could. That idea of price gouging. The cost of living is difficult enough for people without this, Seamus. Are you concerned?
Absolutely. I mean, this, I had a 2-hour debate. I led a 2-hour debate here in the Dáil some weeks ago on the whole question of cost of living, which included energy prices, which included grocery prices, insurance prices, and a whole range of prices. On top of that cost of living crisis, now we have effectively all these companies price gouging. I mean, there's absolutely no reason why home heating oil or petrol or diesel should be rising at the pumps now. In the last few days, there's the fact that the Straits of Hormuz has closed has no immediate effect on the situation here in this country. There is a reserve here which should last for something like 3 months. So there's absolutely there's no excuse.
Well, we get our oil from the North Sea, I think, as well, Seamus, don't we?
That's correct. That's correct. So there's closing the Straits of Hormuz might eventually have some effect, but certainly it has no immediate effect. And as I say, we also have a reserve, I think it's of 3 months, 90 days in fact. So again, there's absolutely no reason why home heating oil should increase or indeed petrol or diesel at the pumps.
And 40% since Friday, I imagine.
It's outrageous, absolutely outrageous. And again, this again highlights the call by people like the Irish Wheelchair Association and Disability Federation of Ireland for an emergency winter payment, and that should be done urgently, and it should be done immediately now by the government.
So many other things to talk about. Last week, the Education Minister, Hildegarde Naughton, she announced there would be no cuts to SNAs for the 26-27 school year because of that backlash around the proposed changes in the special needs assistant allocations, Seamus. What about that? Because you said you were shocked at the Minister's response to the special needs assistant motion, for example. There was no hint of apology, really.
None whatsoever. Not an even I'm sorry. Not that that there was that they were, for instance, were they asleep at the wheel or what exactly happened. But what I was really shocked about was that the Taoiseach had 4 different opportunities that day to address the key question in relation to this whole issue. Minister Naughton had an opportunity later in the day in what was a pre-prepared speech on a private member's motion here. Again, she refused to address the issue. And the core issue for the special education into the future is the criteria on which children with additional needs have access to special needs assistance. And the current situation is that government policy is too narrow, it's completely outdated, and it doesn't reflect the current duties of special needs assistance on the ground in schools right across County Tipperary and right across the country. It doesn't. The current criteria doesn't take into account, for instance, complex needs like emotional distress, sensory difficulties, communication difficulties, social understanding difficulties. And if this core issue isn't addressed, then we'll be back in the same position in 12 months' time, and in 2 years' time, and in 3 years' time. So it's absolutely vital that the 2014 circular is updated, that the criteria criteria is widened to include all those various complex needs. And I would salute, people like Sabrina and Tina, who organised the meeting at the main guard in Clonmel on Saturday last. All the special needs assistants, special education teachers, schools, and the general public, who actually, stood up and said, this just can't happen. And thankfully, the government have at least listened. That was a win for the public, as a win for people power. But of course, we've only won the battle, we haven't won the war yet. And the war is really about changing the criteria by which children with additional needs have access to special needs assistance, because special needs assistants do absolutely wonderful work in classrooms right across the country, and any diminution in the number of special needs assistants or confining it to primary care needs will mean not just that children with additional needs will suffer, but all children in classes will suffer as a result of that.
I beg your pardon, Seamus. Would you agree, though, that, at the core of this maybe was something positive, which that there was a review into the special needs assistants and how they were located and the like? Do you think at the core of this that a review was a positive thing?
Well, I think what was positive was the fact that right across the board, people stood up and said, look, this is not correct, this is not right, this can't happen. I think the initial indication that there would be a pause was basically an exercise to buy time. But I think by the time that weekend was over, it was clear to the government that the public wasn't going to accept this situation. And the fact that it has been stopped now, and that these issues will have to be addressed. That is certainly good, but we must ensure that the issues are addressed, and that is not just kicking the can down the road or a sticking plaster answer to this situation. We need to get the thing right once and for all, because otherwise, as I say, we'll be back in the same position next year and the year after. So we have to include complex needs in the criteria for children getting access to special needs assistance, and that's my focus.
You've spoken about the GP service as well and how it needs reform. The only reform I can see, Seamus, that's completely necessary is more GPs. What have you in mind by way of reform?
Yeah, well, when I spoke on that issue last week, I outlined, I suppose, three things that are vitally important. The first one is additional GPs, more training. That obviously is absolutely necessary. We probably need up to another 200 places per year in GP training schemes, in hospital training schemes, and that's to address population increase, but it's also to address the increasing age of current GPs. There's about 600 current GPs who are over 65. Between 65 and 69, there's about 300, and 70 and over, there's another 300. So we need approximately 200 new GPs per year in training to address that need, plus the additional population. But we also need specifically state-employed GPs to cover areas where it's difficult to get GPs. For instance, rural areas, and we've seen this in South Tipperary and across the country, where it's very, very difficult to replace a GP who is retiring, who has been single-handed, and it's very, very difficult to fill that vacancy. So we need state-employed GPs to fill vacancies like that, and also to fill vacancies in areas.
But how would you make it attractive for a GP to become a state-employed GP?
Well, I mean, permanency and support is a big plus for a GP. and it is something that would appeal to large numbers of people, in my view, and it's something that has been done previously, but it is absolutely necessary, because when you look at the figures, as well as what I've said, the parameters for GPs to head of population by World Health Organization standards is 1 to 1,000. In Ireland, we're nearly at double that figure. It's 1 to 1,750, and in some areas, rural areas and underprivileged areas, it goes as high as 1 to 3,500. So we do need additional GPs, we need state-employed GPs, and we also need a national panel of locums to cover GPs for holidays. It's becoming more difficult for some GPs to take holidays because they can't get cover for the holiday periods.
And so do you think we should we oblige the GPs that we're training here at taxpayers' expense to stay for a period of time and to work in the system here for a period of time, Seamus?
Absolutely. I do think that that should be the case, and not just for GPs, but generally with paramedic type qualifications. Psychologists, physiotherapists, nurses, possibly. Yes. I see no reason why there wouldn't be a commitment to give maybe 2 years at least to the service post qualification. Hopefully, very many of these young people who have travelled to places like Canada and Australia will return and will return better qualified than when they left. But certainly, I think that post-qualification initially, there should be a requirement for professional paramedic type people to give at least a 2-year period in the health service in this country.
Yeah, lots coming into us about the price gouging as well. Seamus, Brendan was on to us. He said he was listening to our conversation. He said, I ordered my home heating oil at 8:30 on Monday. It had gone up €100 since my last fill. It's ridiculous how fast it went up, in my opinion. That's the general consensus that's out there. I mean, this is gouging, isn't it? It really
it is, absolutely. It is, and unfortunately, it's gouging that is something that's continuous. I mean, there is price gouging in relation to grocery prices, and there's already price gouging in relation to energy prices. We've one of the highest energy prices in the EU already, and of course that's leading to huge issues with people who are unable to pay their gas and electricity bills. But there's absolutely no reason why these increases should take place. Currently, the situation in the Middle East has no immediate effect on the Irish situation, and it is simply down to price gouging. And I mean, the government should come in and should, and I'd certainly be hopeful that this will be raised at leaders' questions here today, and that we would get a commitment from the government to freeze the price of these products.
Should they look at the taxation on fuel as well, Seamus, do you think?
Well, I mean, I have always one of the issues in relation to fuel is the whole question of carbon tax, and that's something that I've been opposed to from the beginning. I think it's effectively another tax on ordinary people, and when you take in all the other various taxes and the price increases, we are an outlier in Europe on all the various prices, energy, groceries, insurance. And all these. So my view is that the carbon tax in particular is one that should be withdrawn, because that's a tax that's going to increase every year into the future, and it's obviously creating serious difficulties for people with paying their various energy bills. And
I'd love your opinion on what's been happening in the Middle East with the Israeli-American attack on Iran. What's your own personal take on that and the ramifications of that, Seamus?
Well, sure. Look, in my view, this is this is an illegal war in my view. I mean, there is no United Nations mandate. There is would appear that even the American legal system and governance system, that has been breached in relation to it as well. And of course, in practice, what's happening here is that the whole Middle East is becoming involved in a very, very serious situation for people's lives and for humanity, particularly in that area, but possibly even further afield. I believe that negotiations should have been allowed to continue. The key people involved in the negotiations, I think the Foreign Affairs Minister of Oman has suggested that these negotiations are going well and that they had made significant progress. So it's very difficult to understand why this war has broken out against that particular background.
Often on a weekly basis, and just finally, Seamus, we have contributors lamenting the abolition of the town and the borough councils. You put a question to the Taoiseach about the task force that was set up last year to look at this. They were to report back within a relatively short period of time. Is there a result from that task force?
Well, this is an issue that, as I say, Fran, I've been raising consistently and over the last 18 months. It was the force was set up on June of 2025 and was to report within 6 to 9 months. Well, obviously the 6 months is gone. But I have a reply, a written reply now from John Cummins, the Minister of State, who was involved in this area, and just yesterday he informs me that the final meeting of the task force took place on the 25th of February and that he expects to receive the report this week. He goes on to say that he will consider the report, develop an implementation plan, and he will then present that report and the plan to the Cabinet, he says, within the coming weeks for a decision. So what I would say in relation to it, Fran, is that we're coming to a key point in this process, and I would ask and I would suggest that local councillors would contact their political parties, to ensure that the key area of the re-establishment of borough and town councils is positively addressed in this, and that we do get the re-establishment of this. Remember, almost everybody believes now that the abolition of those town councils and borough councils was a very bad decision. Brendan Howland, the leader of the Labour Party at the time, has now said that it certainly wouldn't happen again, and if he was there, it was a very bad decision, he said. So it's something that needs to be done for local democracy.
And the Taoiseach just said to you it's in the programme for government. But what exactly is in the programme for government? Is it just to explore it, or is there a definitive?
No, that's a very good question, Fran. And even I was disappointed in the terms of reference of this task force, because it didn't specifically address this question. I was also disappointed in the membership of the task force, because it seemed to me to be very heavily weighted in favour of the existing system. So that's why I'm saying we're coming towards the end of at least the report. So I would hope that local councillors at local level in councils right throughout the country would contact their own political parties and pressurise their parties to ensure that this report and this task force means that local town councils and borough councils will be re-established, because local town councils and borough councils are the core of democracy, and it's absolutely urgent that towns are represented, with councils that have real powers and real functions. So that's an urgent thing that local councillors can do and should do immediately as well.
Well, we hear it here all of the time, and I can bet that if we put this out to listeners out there, by far the majority would like to see them reinstated. So, as you say, it's up to the councillors to push this.
Yeah,
Seamus, yes, I beg your pardon.
Just very briefly on that, that's something else that I was very disappointed with. The public consultation, there was to be a public consultation in relation to this, and there was in fact no public consultation. It didn't go out to the public generally at all. It went out to targeted groups only.
Wow, but what fed the task force properly then, Seamus? What?
Well, they went out and looked for submissions from chambers of commerce, the trade union force, current management in local government, but they didn't go out to the general public. It's the normal thing is that there would be a public advertising program, and the public generally would be invited to send in submissions in relation to an issue like this. That didn't happen, and that makes me wonder as to the effectiveness of the task force at all. And again, that makes it even more important that local people, councillors in particular, actually begin to push this and push it immediately, because we are coming to a crunch point in relation to this issue.
But just for clarity, when we do get a result from the task force, will they say yay or nay? Will they say yes, we should re-establish?
We don't know.
You don't know
the answer to that question. No, I certainly hope they will, but we don't know that, and that's why I'm saying we're at a crunch point now, and any local councillor who has any contact, and they all would have contact with their own political parties, they should contact them immediately in relation to this issue, because we are coming to a situation where that decision is going to be made.
Right, and just to inform you for the Dáil debate today, I'm just looking at my screens here. Seamus, loads of people giving us examples of price gouging out there. It's alive and well. It is happening in real time. So,
absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thanks for your time this morning, Seamus. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning to you.
Fran.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me.
That's Deputy Seamus Healy speaking to us there. 1800 938 007.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puckon. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puckon. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Now, last Monday night, members of the Irish Farmers Association called off their 28-day sit-in at Bord Bia after the agency's board agreed to commission an independent, expert-led review of its governance structures. Now, joining us again is a former Wicklow IFA chair, current PR for Wicklow IFA, and chair of Wicklow Rural Development Committee, Tom Byrne, who took part in the protests, spoke to us live, of course, from the Bord Bia offices last month. Tom, good morning to you.
Good morning, Fran.
Thanks once again for coming on with us, Tom. Do you know, just on a human level, Tom, before we get into the nitty-gritty of this, 28-day sit-in, what toll did it take on you and your colleagues?
I can't honestly answer that question. I know yesterday, we back to work scenario, I was quite tired in the afternoon, so I obviously had lost some condition and some ability to keep going. So, and truly, everyone is asking that question, and I truly can't answer it. And we didn't have any conflict inside, I can assure you that. We had minor disagreements on our approach to the entire problem. Needless to say, we had discussion in and out with the people that mattered in IFA and the approach we wanted. So I'm not absolutely sure yet, and it's going to take a lot of reflection and a lot of looking back. But definitely what I can say is we were 3 or 4 days in, and we suggested when we met Jim O'Toole what actually was the outcome in the end. And that I can absolutely stand over and guarantee, and my 4 colleagues will tell you the same. We accepted that Bord Bia wanted Jim O'Toole or Mr. Murn to be there, that he was a great ambassador and he was this, that and the other, and they weren't willing to let him go. And we said, well, then just step aside. Let this thing be sorted out by somebody else and see where it goes. So there's a lot of publicity out there saying that we weren't in negotiating form and we done all sorts of things wrong. So look, we can't all get it right all the time, but that was what happened in the end, was what was suggested in the beginning.
So therefore, do you see the sit-in, like it needn't have been as long as 28 days then, is what you're saying to me. But do you see it as a success, Tom?
Yes,
yeah,
very definitely. And I see it as a true step forward for agriculture, for Bord Bia quality assurance. I think it will protect the good name of quality assurance. I see it as a real step. And I know when the negotiations ended on Monday that it was sent to the Minister for Agriculture for his okay, his thumbs up, and he got that. And I was incredibly disappointed at his statements yesterday morning about it could be the same afterwards. And for a Minister for Agriculture to come and say that, oh, you can have your review, and but it'll go back to the one thing. It won't go back to the one thing, I can assure you that. We as a group, as IFA representatives, as the IFA, won't allow it to go back to where it was. And I think it will be nothing only an improved scheme, probably a more friendly scheme and a better ran scheme.
Was that very arrogant ahead of a review to almost dictate what the outcome was going to be?
I can't for the life of me, and look, I'm only an ordinary farmer, I can't for the life of me understand why a minister would make such a statement. How, when he uttered those words, did he listen back to himself and say, what did I just say? Because we don't even believe what he just said. Incredibly. And I know Martin Hayden, and I have great time for Martin Hayden. And look, I give him a little bit of leeway. He was under stress, and the whole thing was very stressful. And there was a lot of people up in Bord Bia headquarters very stressed, and that was obvious when we met him on the Monday evening leaving. And I truly do not understand how a man could preempt the outcome of a review that he okayed the day before. And it's a little bit worrying. But look, we'll get over that and we'll get on with it.
But will you get over that, Tom? Will you be able to heal that rift with the minister? Because he accused the leadership of the IFA of deliberately misleading its members in relation to that dispute with Bord Bia. Very strong words there.
And very strong. And I have accepted from the very beginning that there was going to be a rift between the Minister for Agriculture and IFA. And I could see a lot of the downsides now. Not that I have any great insight into anything or able to see the future or anything, but I am concerned about the risk between, and don't say farmers, don't say the IFA, say farmers and the Minister for Agriculture, because like we have 70,000 members, but there's a lot of other farmers out there that this affects, and I am concerned, very seriously concerned about the relationship now that we will have with the Minister for Agriculture, and indeed ongoing. And we have to build a relationship. We have to work with these people. As I've said before, we have CAP coming up. We have all the different aspects of Mercosur. We have all the different aspects of the irrigation.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work to be done. And
so ahead of that, Tom, do you have confidence in this minister? Do you have confidence in him at all?
Look, as I said, I know Martin Hayden, and I can call him Martin lots of days, and that confidence will have to be rebuilt, and there's no doubt about that.
And do you think that's think that's possible?
I hope it's possible. But I'm not sure. I really and truly am not sure, but I really hope it's possible.
Because what Francie Gorman said, that Martin Hayden is dragging his feet, he doesn't seem to understand the deep frustration that exists across the farming community. Now, again, that's a very damning statement to say about a Minister for Agriculture, that he doesn't understand the basics, really.
But it's the truth. And like Martin Stapleton the Minister for Agriculture, is a farmer of Obbimoon in County Kildare.
Yeah.
And But farmers don't. Francie is right about that he doesn't understand the depth of feeling within the farming community, because we were overwhelmingly supported by the farmers, and proof of that was in the fact that they came to the door day in, day out, every night, and those people were the people that kept us going. And I truly don't understand where the minister was coming out of. So I look at, there's an awful amount of work to be done still. The 4 weeks that we put in above is nothing compared to what has to be done, and the building of bridges and the getting on with the whole thing. Do you know? So, incredibly difficult time that we're facing. But we need to do it. We have to get on with it. We have to find out what the hell is going on. We have to get to trust the farmers back. The Minister for Agriculture has to get to trust the farmers back. So there's a lot of work to be done, no doubt about it.
Right, but what will you expect from the review? What are you hoping for from the review? Because it looks like Larry Murren is going to be still in place anyway, you know.
At the present time, he is. He has stepped aside from the chair. What I do believe is that I have no belief in 6 weeks. I don't think the work that needs to be done can be achieved within 6 weeks. So I don't honestly believe it could be solved in 6 weeks. If we sat for 4 and nothing happened, but I can't see 6 weeks solving the problem. So that's the first thing. I do think that Mr. Murren's position is absolutely untenable. I think ultimately he'll probably... Well, he only has about a year and a half to serve anyway. So we don't think it... But to have pure great confidence in the Bord Bia project, the Bord Bia aspect of Irish food, that it has to change. And that might include the board, some of the board changing, some of the head management changing. There's a lot of unknowns here, and it has to happen.
And eligibility as well, I suppose, of future board members, that's vital, is it not?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. And but the whole process involves more than the board, if you know what I mean. Like, the whole entire management, the whole aspect of the way they look at things, that Origin Green thing. Like, we absolutely believe that, and you heard the phrase several times through the campaign of hitching the wagon. The food from the world cannot be hitched on the wagon of Origin Green, the Irish product, and selling Irish product under, or foreign product under the Origin Green label. And it's a distraction. It's not right, and I, for one, don't want to see that happen. You know, like, we don't grow coffee, and yet coffee can have an Origin Green stamp, and that's not right.
Which is pretty ludicrous, in fact, isn't it? It really is.
Absolutely, and we have pride of place in what we produce. It's recognised the world over as green, and to hitch your wagon on the green to try sell it, it's corporate world.
And can I finally ask you, Tom, if you're not happy with the result of the review, and for some reason I think you won't be happy with, but if you're not,
I'm living in hope now.
Okay. Well, fair play if you are. But if you're not happy with it, will you go back protesting again?
Absolutely. We won't accept for Irish farmers. We will not accept a poor outcome for Irish farmers, and that's why we have a belief in the people that are going to be appointed to run the view. We will fight for the rights of Irish farmers. We will fight for the product that we produce, that it cannot be mislabelled, mishandled, or sold under anything other than the quality product that we produce. And we will fight for that, because after all, and you are in a hinterland of great farming country down in it. And like no better in the world, and we will not see that lose that quality status. We will not, and I can assure you, whatever it takes, if it takes 20 weeks sitting somewhere, we will do it.
All right.
I can assure you that, Brad.
Tom,
could I just say a few words?
Of course you can. Yes.
People? My wife is from the Glen.
The Glen of Aherlow.
Yes.
Wonderful. Yeah, fair play.
And like, look at, I know the Glen well, and I know an awful lot of people there in South Tipp, and up where the Foot Pub used to be, where the Caravansery was. So I know the area quite well, and there's the O'Mahony family then out on North Limerick in Ballafaskin and Anglesborough, and all the great people in that part of the world, and all the people, all the O'Mahony family that live in Kappa and all around there, and Knockavilla in Dundrum.
Yeah.
So, look, I have an awful lot of friends down there, and I know they're a great crowd of people. I know them well, and if I could mention Siobhan Stapleton, who I know very well, the dentist in Tipp Town.
Yeah.
And I want to send my best wishes to Matty McGrath. I know him for a long, long time, and I believe he's a little bit under the weather at the present time, so the best wishes to Matty.
Well, that's very kind of you. Look, thanks for everything, Tom. It was great to talk to you over the last while. Thanks for coming on with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fran.
Thank you.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
You know, it's Tom Byrne there, former Wicklow IFA chair, currently PR for Wicklow IFA, and chair of the Wicklow Rural Development Committee, but of course part of the protest within the premises of Bord Bia up until last Monday night. 1800 938 007. Somebody else telling me 20 cent on a litre of home heating oil last Monday, and an extra 20 cent per litre on Monday as well. So a lot of gouging going on out there.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tipp today on 1800 938 007.
Now, there's a sense of sadness looming over Roscrea after it was announced that the monastic community of Our Lady of Silence will be departing from the premise of the Cistercian College in the town, and will instead be relocating to Mellifont Abbey in Louth. Now, Derek Russell, great friend to the show over the years from Roscrea, has fond memories of the monks in the locality, and he joins me now. Good morning to you, Derek.
Morning, Fran, and good morning to all the listeners.
And good to talk. It is sad news, Derek, isn't it?
Well, it is, because it's going to be the end of an era. I know the property will be still there, and by all accounts, the college will still remain and be run by the board. And I'm not too sure, to be honest, of what will become of the farm or all the rest of the forestry and everything that goes with the abbey. And, you know, for as long as I can remember, I'm in my 50s now, and I suppose I remember back to the time there was 5 or 6 masses there of a Sunday, and we often, if we were going to matches in Dublin, we'd be up and at 6:30 mass in the monastery. Yeah, at that time, like, we all know how long it took to get to Dublin, so my parents would have decided that was the best option, up and get early morning mass and head after that then. And, you know, for me personally, I would have served mass there for maybe 5 years. And, you know, then I went on to start working part-time, and then I got a full-time job, and I was there for 8 or 9 years working full-time. And my father would have worked in the mill which the monastery owned back in the day as well.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, there was the offlets there. The monastery had their own sawmill as well, and there was employment there. There was loads of employment on the farm. You know, the college was fully staffed
and
as well.
what were the men like, Derek? Because to take that vow for, you know, a monastic life and all of that was, you know, it's a big undertaking. What manner of men were they?
Well, some were very religious, and, you know, from then certain monks came down around the farm where I would have been working, and, you know, they talked about everyday life.
Yeah.
If it was today, they'd be talking about all the upheaval in the world. They'd be talking, you know, some of them were, you know, just up with everything that went on around the place. And, you know, what would be going on in Roscrea and all the local areas and everything. And they were just, you know, for the most of them were just ordinary people like everybody else.
Mm. And,
you know, and
would there have been many of them there when you were in the monastery there?
Well, when I was 13, which is 40 years ago, most unfortunately now, I finished up serving Mass, and I recall that I served, my last Mass was the 10:15, and in the High Mass, which the monks would all attended, there was 53 monks there that day, and there was always going to be a few missing away and whatever. So maybe at that stage, there were 60 monks there. But I would have heard my granduncle over and over saying that he remembered one time seeing 152 monks walking out in single file with hose going out to tin turnips.
Wow.
You know, now that's not today or yesterday, but he recalled it all the same.
My God, yeah. And did they chant and sing as well, did they?
Well, they would have had, yeah. They would not down on the farm now or anything, but when it would come to midday, the Angelus, like one of my bosses was Father Anthony, and for no matter what would be going on at that stage, he'd get down and pray at that time, and, you know, that was just the way of life.
Yeah.
And, you know, we'd be coming in there in the mornings and you'd hear bells ringing, and the bells used to go, I think it was 4:15 in the mornings, and my home house was less than 2 kilometres from the monastery, and if we ever had our cousins or anyone staying over and they'd hear the bell going at 4:15 in the morning, well, they used to be worried about what was all this about. But like for the locals, that was just a way of life, and you know, it marked the day.
Yeah. Were you ever tempted to join that way of life yourself along the?
No, I only ever got as far as serving Mass, Brandon, I'm afraid. And I'm working in the monastery, and you know, like the whole area, not to pick out one monk now or anything, but Father Lawrence, who's still a monk in the monastery, he was always a great friend to all the local organisations and even to the people of the area, you know, and he still is to this day. And, you know, I would be involved in what was Ballishkinnock Hurling Club, and now that has gone on to be Ballishkinnock Killavella Hurling Club, and the monks always looked after us very well.
Yes.
You know, we it's fair to say we wouldn't have a hurling field only for them. And, you know, same with, they looked after the local or Streamstown Celtic soccer club. Then they had Seto Hall, which, you know, was always very beneficial to the area, and I'm sure you've heard of Seto Hall through your music connections.
Sure, of course, yes.
And, you know, the monks, they owned the mill, and then they went on and sold that in the early 80s to Liffey Mills, who moved things up, you know, a lot of years.
So they weren't insular. They did interact with the community and benefited the community greatly, yeah?
Yeah, but still they had their prayer times, and, you know, they adhered to all that. And, you know, anyone that worked out there, or any of the locals or anything, you know, they had great interaction with them.
Yes.
Because, like, if you went for a walk on the grounds, you were always going to meet one of them out walking around or something like.
There's a connection, of course, with Mount Mellery as well, in that the last group of monks left Mellery to go to Roscrea, but I see that Bishop Fonzie Cullinan has been writing about this on social media, and he said with sadness he's announcing that the monks won't be returning to Mount Mellery either. Instead, as with the other monks, they will establish a long-term home in Mellifont Abbey. So there's a lot of sadness around about this, because it's the end of an era, I suppose.
Yeah, and as I spoke there about Father Lawrence, like, he's given his whole life to Mount St. Joseph's in Roscrea, like, you know, and it'll be a big change for him now in life going forward. And, you know, as I said, he was very good to all the locals, as were other monks as well, like, you know, and then the monks had their own bakery, and you had the famous Brother John and Oliver there, the two bakers, and they would have, you know, made bread for the college and for the guest house and the farm and everywhere all down through the years.
Yes.
And for the monks' own use. Like, they were very self-sufficient, and it was all the ways they had. Like, I remember when I would have started working there was a separate section, the garden. There was people employed in that there to, you know, grow all the vegetables and whatever. And they said the farm was a big employer at that stage as well, the sawmill. You know, there was loads of employment, and it was down through the years to say, I worked there, my father worked there, my grandfather worked there, my granduncles, my own uncles, everyone got employment, you know.
Yeah, well, it's and have you been speaking to people about it? I guess there is a sadness in the community there, Derek, I suppose, about it.
Yeah, there is, and I don't think people saw it coming. Well, I didn't see it coming anyway, and, you know, people I would have been talking to were a bit taken back by the move, like, because when the three monasteries stand up and everyone came to, Roscrea. Well, it was assumed, that was a big move and that would be the last big move, but that wasn't to be. And, it's the whole grounds and everything that goes with it, like.
Of course.
Now, and it would have to be said that the monks were always very open to the public with their grounds, and, many teams have come and used their grounds to train on, and, some great names down through the years went to the college and whatever, and, like the local community was always very involved with the monks as well.
Well, certainly the end of an era for sure. Derek, thank you so much for coming on with us this morning. Appreciate it, Derek. Look after yourself.
Bother. Thank you.
Bye-bye to you. Derek Russell there in Roscrea, reminiscing about his time as an altar boy at the monastic community there in Roscrea. And sad news indeed about the monks leaving for Mellifont. News and information's on the way.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24111.
Thanks, Pat. Welcome along to the second hour of Tip Today. 1800 938 007. I'm glad to be joined by Cynthia Navarro, who is MEP for the South constituency. Good morning to you, Cynthia.
Great to be chatting with you again, Alan.
And it's Fran, actually, Cynthia. And great.
Fran, excuse me. I'm thinking of Alan in Wexford.
I know Alan very well indeed.
Yes, you do. We both know him very well.
For sure. Good to talk to you again, Cynthia, and thanks for coming on with us. Quite a few things I want to chat to you about, but can I talk to you about what's happening in the Middle East at the moment? I'd love your opinion on what's going on and what's been going on out there.
Well, I suppose my opinion for what it counts for, because there are many more important brains applying their strength to this, is that we're in a whole new geopolitical order. And unfortunately, Trump, allied with Israel, has taken a decision to behave in a manner that goes against all conventional wisdom. And when I say wisdom, I'm talking about international agreements with regards to trade, human rights, etc. And unfortunately, it has left the rest of us who are behaving along the lines of the rule of law and democracy, having to be the grown-ups in the room. And on the one hand, we can't, Fran, criticise openly. It's very difficult for my party, my government, to be openly criticising because, of course, America has always been a huge ally of ours. And on the other hand, however, we don't want to see this kind of unacceptable invasion, unacceptable attack, where obviously innocent people have been killed and will be killed. And then, of course, we have our own citizens out there who are trying to get home. So my whole take on this is, as it would be my take, although it's far more serious because it's life and death here, it was my same take in terms of the tariffs and other announcements and pronouncements by President Trump, is that we do need cool heads, and we need clear thinking, and we need allies. Unfortunately, however, Fran, I am concerned that, for example, the Chancellor of Germany has come out in support of America and of Trump's action. That wouldn't normally have been the case, Fran, when you and I were covering previous chancellors and their actions and their policies in Germany. So the whole, not only the whole world order, but the political order in Europe is changing rapidly and has changed, Fran, rapidly. I mean, we spoke before about various things, not so much the rise of the far right, we did in terms of politics, but we did in terms of social issues and, the women's agenda and so forth. And human rights issues. But could I just say, in the European Parliament, it's a very different European Parliament than it was 5 years ago. It's a whole new Parliament with 1/3 made up of far right-wing politicians. And those far right-wing politicians in ECR and ECN and those parties, they are absolutely focused on mistrust, distrust and misinformation.
And tell me about that. If you have
policies.
Tell me about that, though. If you have a divided Parliament, then largely, Cynthia, and you need to respond to geopolitical events such as we're witnessing in Iran, that makes it very difficult, does it not?
Absolutely, Fran. You've gone to the heart of it. So we have the largest party, EPP, and as you know, Ursula von der Leyen is with that political grouping or party, if you want to call it that, the EPP, European People's Party. After that, we have the Social and Democrats. Now, they're a massive bulk, if you like, or a massive group, but they're not a big enough group to steer us in a moderate direction. Now, by moderate, I'm not talking about very lefty, woke views or anything like that. I'm talking about democratic respect for the rule of law and making sure that citizens are protected and that human rights are obviously respected and protected. And unfortunately, EPP, S&D, and then comes Renew Europe, Fran, which is my party, but we're in 5th place. So before you come to my group, my party, we have got to contend then with this 1/3 of far right, and they are in there in position 3 and 4 before you come to us 5th, and that means that it's extremely difficult. You've put your finger on the pulse there, Fran. It's extremely difficult to get that consensus where it seems reasonable that we are going in the right direction. It seems that we should be doing and taking these kind of steps and making these pronouncements as we have had difficulties in relation to Ukraine and our foreign affairs policy in relation to making sure that Ukraine is still supported 4 years on, and then in relation to, obviously, we saw it with Gaza and so forth. So it's very difficult to get consensus in the House now.
And you alluded to it there, to Ukraine, the European Parliament, Cynthia, approving 90 billion a loan for Ukraine. What about that, though? Because my reading of it is they will only need to pay that back once Russia pays for the damages that Mr. Putin's invasion has wrought. That's never going to happen.
I believe it will happen, but that's not the point, Fran. It's the lesser evil of perhaps that not happening, which I don't agree with you on, that is what we want to choose, and that is avoiding war landing on our doorstep. And I kid you not, if we do not win this war, if we do not defeat Putin, he will not stop. And Fran, what is next door to Ukraine? We have countries on the eastern side of Europe. Maybe we don't go on holidays to them. But of course, we know that they exist, and we know an awful lot about Poland. We have a lot of Polish people living in Ireland and Irish people going to Poland. Poland is right next door to Ukraine. Then we have Germany next door, and so on. And suddenly we are up against Ireland. So make no mistake, Putin, like any dictator, he will not stop. And therefore, of course, we must win this war. This war is not only a war to be won for Ukraine. It's a war for Europe. We cannot accept an illegal invasion.
But equally, we cannot keep doling out such funds. I mean, Sinn Féin has outlined its opposition to the ongoing funding of Ukraine, and they're making a point that would be very popular here back home when they say that we have a housing crisis here, we have a cost of living crisis, we have the results now of the invasion of Iran. What about that? I mean, what of the 90 billion, what's that costing us here, Cynthia?
I'll tell you what it's costing us. If we don't contribute to that in a meaningful way with our neutrality status, then we won't be able to build houses. Do you know why? We'll be ravaged by war. We'll be ravaged by other debts that will arise and other issues that will arise. So this is
right. But
very,
you're mentioning neutrality there. But some of this loan is going to buy quite a considerable amount of this loan. Is going to be spending on arms and weaponry.
Yes, not the money coming from us, and we've done that already, Fran. And this is again
how do you know that? I mean, really, will receipts come back?
I know that because I'll tell you why. I know it, Fran, because I trust in the government data and the government sources. But you know what? Some of the listeners out there, I'm not suggesting they all listen to your radio station or your show, or some of the viewers out there, they are sucked in to the misinformation, as I spoke about at the top of the interview, and the disinformation of the far right. In fact, to the extent, if you want an example, that the last time I came on your programme, or one of the last times, and we spoke about women's issues, My Voice, My Choice campaign, and a vote that we had in the European Parliament, and I spoke about women's rights, and I explained that it was hijacked by the far right and turned into something about presumably they thought, and they produced it as a vote about men being able to have babies. That point was actually picked up by one of your listeners, and a ridiculous video ran by that listener who actually referenced and played back the interview, but he actually chopped it and he edited it in such a way so that it was completely inaccurate and completely false, and ended up saying things like, she's on the left, she's crazy, this can't be the way it is. So can I just say, unfortunately, I need to caution people not to come and vote for me and come and follow me, but to actually go back to their basic democratic roots and their instinctive decency, which is to protect people who are invaded by a dictator called Putin and who end up homeless and bombed and maimed and dead. And of course we have taken them in and given them a welcome, and rightly so. And yes, of course, Fran, I'm totally alive to the fact that there is a cost of living crisis, a fuel crisis now, and we also have, obviously, a housing crisis in Ireland. But you know what? If we don't stop the war and prevent it from escalating towards us, we're going to end up with none of those crises. Do you know why? Everything will be sucked into actually saving Europe.
So you have no issue whatsoever in continuing to fund this?
I have absolutely no issue in continuing to fund
at whatever financial cost to the country.
I take it. No, it's not at whatever financial cost, because this is properly vetted, and due diligence is taken by how much it is going to cost on any reasonable timescale. And also, we do have peace talks going on. We do have Europe and Kaja Kallas, our High Commissioner, involved, and our commissioners at the table.
I'm sure
it's not
you.
As if we're
I'm
sitting
sure
back
you
and
agree.
Saying, how much cash do you want? We'll dole it out. Here you go. It's a blank check.
Right,
Hold on a second now.
if you take people,
like you're talking about politicians who are not taking prudent action in relation to stopping a war coming to our shores. And it sounds like you're taking a very easy approach of, do you know what? We won't fund anything. We'll have an insular approach to this. We'll live on an island. We'll save all the money for ourselves. We'll never have people coming in or going out. We'll close our economy, and we'll end up completely protectionist. I mean, Fran, quite frankly, that is left-wing simplicity.
Well, can you understand? I mean, over the last couple of days here in the programme, we were talking about the difficulties with SNAs. We were talking about the difficulties with people with disability out there who can barely afford to keep themselves warm. Can you understand that people would look then and they'd see vast sums of money after we being extremely generous anyway, but more money going out all the time for Ukraine?
Fran,
yeah.
What do you mean? Can I understand it? I talk to these people every day. I am an elected representative. Do you think I go around in an ivory tower, whether it's in Brussels or Strasbourg or in Carlow, and the rest of the constituency when I'm back there?
Right.
I am acutely aware of what's going on the ground. I'm acutely aware of how much a fill of oil has jumped up over the last couple of days, or indeed how much it is for rent, whether it's in any county that I live in. But I can tell you, I'm also acutely aware of the fact that if we let a dictator like Putin or Orban in Hungary, because we're being attacked from within Europe as well as outside of it, if we let the rule of law and the right to democracy and all our democratic institutions be attacked in the manner in which they are being attacked, we will end up in a massive crisis. Who wants to go back to World War II? Why do you think the European project was born out of World War II? Why do you think it has led to so much prosperity for Ireland since we joined in 1973?
Well,
I mean, let's get real. Let's live in the real world.
It looks like we didn't learn anything from World War II when you look at what's happening on a geopolitical front. I mean, you know, like...
I'm sorry, politics, of course, changes. We know that. We have had centrist politics for quite a number of years now, and it has led to prosperity for Europe and indeed for America and indeed for if you want to look at other areas. But right now we have a new geopolitical situation. But before we had President Trump in place, we had Putin, who is a tyrant and a dictator and who has no respect for any rule of law.
Do you view Donald Trump in the same fashion?
I view Donald Trump as a democratically elected politician, but he is taking certain decisions, as the Supreme Court in America has found out, which are not democratic and are not aligned with the democratic process. And more than the democratic process, I used to be a barrister, so you have to abide by the rule of law. I'm very interested in laws. We don't enact laws so they can sit on the shelf, Alan. Or sorry, I should say, yes, I'm so...
Yeah.
But we don't do that, Fran. We don't enact laws so they sit on the shelf. We enact laws so that we can actually enforce them and put them in place.
So, and the opposition then calling for Micheál Martin then to, I don't know, boycott the White House on St. Patrick's Day, or certainly to be...
It's ridiculous. Can I just say, Sinn Féin are into sound bites. They're not in the real world of making decisions because they don't have to make decisions, and therefore they don't put themselves in the shoes of people, politicians, the government, who do have to make decisions. And decisions come about through collaboration. It's called
right, but let me be devil's advocate on this, Cynthia, for a moment. I mean, the optics of Micheál Martin sharing the bowl of shamrock with Donald Trump ahead of or following up what happened in Iran, surely the optics of that is going to be, we support this man.
Yes, I'm sorry, but there are very right-minded, mature listeners out there listening to you now.
Yeah.
The optics of it are one part of the piece. Of course, on Taoiseach Micheál Martin will be talking to President Trump in private. Of course he will be saying things that we want him to say. We don't even have to give him a nod to say them because he's an extremely intelligent leader and Taoiseach. And I'm glad that he is leading out on this. And you know what, Fran?
What?
We are the envy of Europe. No other country in Europe has that access to the White House. Even though it is in the state that it's in at the moment, it is very valuable to us. We have many jobs, we have many ties, family, culture, but most of all, there's a huge economic tie there. And that needs to be protected democratically at all times.
Can I ask you about something domestic? Because you've been looking into payouts from Éireann Road Éireann, and it's kind of interesting as well. Compensation payments, indeed, to passengers. You had a bit of a battle to get this information, didn't you?
Yes, I did. It took several months. Nonetheless, it came, but I wondered why it took several months. I wondered why then the information and the data came to me in PDF format, which meant that I couldn't run it through my own system so that I could look at figures in different way and work it out. But I'm unhappy. I'm unhappy with customer care in Éireann Road Éireann. The reason I'm unhappy about this issue is because I'm on the Transport Committee, Fran, and I want to make sure that public transport works. It doesn't work in Ireland according to all the people that I meet, because I like keeping in touch with people and finding out what their issues are, because that's what I'm paid to do. And look, people are not happy with cancellations, train failures, rude staff, late trains, reserved seats being occupied, all the overcrowding, the sweatiness, the cleanliness issues, antisocial behaviour, and of course inappropriate behaviour sometimes on the part of staff. So I put in a Freedom of Information request and I said to Éireann Road Éireann, listen, would you please tell me how much do you pay out in a given year in relation to these claims, not slip and falls now on the train and not those personal injury claims. I'm talking about issues with customer satisfaction and customer care. So they came back. They only had figures, or they only provided me with figures for the year of 2024, January right through to mid-October. So it's not a full year. And it's a whopping amount of 150,000, just shy of 150,000 euros. And they go from everything which they call, now this is their taglines, station issues, service disruption, onboard issues, fares and ticketing. And they could range from as low as €1.50, which could be really important to somebody who's on a disability allowance, and it goes right up to maybe €1,000. It probably was a group ticket of unused tickets, a group booked. And I've raised this issue because I think it's wonderful in the week that's in it, Fran, to hear that there is so much investment now by Éireann Road Éireann in relation to its rolling stock and its connectivity and its high-speed trains and all of that infrastructure and so forth. But if we don't get the customer care right and the safety right on the trains and around the stations, well, people are giving up. They are complaining, and they have to be paid money for the taxpayer.
They're comparing their experience on mainland Europe as well, which from a train point of view is fantastic in some of those countries. You know, it really is.
Absolutely fantastic. And there's no reason why in Europe I can get a Swiss train, it'll arrive on time, and by on time now, maybe there could be a margin of error of like 30 seconds or maybe a minute, and I will get the seat that is clearly on my ticket, and I will get it, nobody else will be sitting in it, and then there will be somebody coming up and down the train to make sure, are there issues with your seat, or can we have a look at your ticket? Could I just say, I did a story last year, maybe I spoke to you, Fran, about it last year, about Irish Rail and punctuality. You know that Irish Rail, they don't classify a train as late if it arrives within 10 minutes of its scheduled arrival time.
Wow.
I mean, that is deeply flawed, Fran. When we want so many people to go on the train because of our environmental agenda, safety issues, etc., and affordability issues. And of course, we want that improvement. And we need it for our economy, we need it for our tourism, and we need it for our social events.
All right, I must leave it there, Cynthia. Thanks for talking to us today, and my best to Alan. Good to talk to you. Thank you.
What's the road trying to stop Roner weekend?
Good, really good. Thank you. That's Cynthia Neverico speaking to us there. 1800 938 007. We'll take a break, back in just a tad.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, puck on. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Huge reaction to that conversation with Cynthia Neverico there, most of which I can't read out, but thank you anyway. 083 311 3311. Now, Raphael Hogan is from Ballyhogan and now lives in Longford. He got in touch with the show recently to share some information he found recently when researching ancestral connections, and he joins me online now. Ray, good morning to you.
Good morning, Fran, and to your listeners from Longford.
And good to talk to you today as well. Would you tell me about the connection, first of all, with Tipperary, Ray?
I was born in Tipperary, and our family lived in Ballyhogan from about 1950 to about 1970.
And the move to Longford then, was that for work?
I was appointed as an apprentice to Bord Bia in Longford in 1963.
Very good.
I left Ballyhogan in 63. I would have went to school in Carrig National School near Ballycommon.
Yeah, I know it. I know it well indeed. And were you always interested in genealogy then?
Yeah, well, I've been at it for a long number of years. I assume I kind of remember doing my DNA probably about 40 years ago. So it's
wow.
It's been going on. It's been going on a while. Yeah, I've been interested in it,
and that DNA test then that you did, that gave you connection to, I think it's Stan Hogan is his name in Sydney, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, basically, what happens when you do your DNA with Ancestry, they then provide you with a file, and that in turn allows you to load your DNA to a number of different databases, and then in turn they then will give you a report which kind of lists your connections to your DNA.
Yes.
And they also provide a platform where you can communicate with these people. Now, I would get maybe a half a dozen connections each year from various people making various queries. But last September, October, I got an interesting one, which came from a Stan Hogan. Now, he is no relation of mine.
Yes.
But I'll just read to you what he said in his letter. Good day.
Sure.
My full name is Stanley Garrett Hogan. I am 79, retired, and live in Sydney, Australia, although I was born in India. My great-grandfather was a Garrett Hogan, born somewhere in Ireland. I've been trying to discover his extended family and ancestry for over 30 years, unsuccessfully. His claimed date of birth was supposed to be somewhere around 1800. I had foolishly thought that the advent of the popularity of DNA testing, that many questions may soon be answered. But to date, I have had my DNA tested by 4 companies: Ancestry, MyHeritage, 23andMe, my FTDNA, and 2 major Y-DNA tests, all to no avail. My numerous DNA tests seem to have raised more questions than answers. I had thought with your interest in a John Hogan and the Cartella family tree that there may be a possible distant family link or connection. I've had distant extended family links and connections in Ireland via the surname Condon and Finn. It would be great to hear from you. So basically, he had made connection to a family tree that I had done some work for, because they were connected to my grandmother on my father's side.
Right, this is the Finn family, is it?
No, this is the Hogan family.
Okay. Right. And where do the Finns come into this then?
Yeah. Well, basically what happened was when I went researching his Hogan, I discovered the connection to the Finn family.
Ah, okay.
Now, what happened was his great-grandfather was from County Wicklow, and he joined the army and went to the English army and was posted to India. But also, as a daughter of the Finns of Finn's Cross, who were a Timothy Finn and Ellen Hogan, their daughter Mary married a man by the name of Condon, Michael Condon. They had 2 children in Tipperary. One of them was baptised in Muncie and one was baptised in Neenah. He joined the British Army and he was also posted to India. So basically, both his lines came from Ireland but were all in India. Now, his family then moved from India to Sydney in 1948, and he was about 2 years of age. Now, he had 2 brothers and a sister, and the sister died young, but 2 of his brothers. But then his father got sick and died young, so they were kind of left their mother to actually look after them. So, in fact, in throughout his kind of the letters from him, he had been a kind of always concerned that they came to Sydney, but they had no relations in Sydney, and their father was dead. So therefore, he was always a kind of lost. So therefore, he then pursued the DNA to try and make his connection.
Right, okay. So connect this back to Tipperary for me then, and what exactly you're looking for, because you're putting this out to listeners there at this point, Ray, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, basically, we lived in my formative years where we lived close to Finn's Cross. Now, I always understood that the Finns were involved in music, and because at that time, in the early 1800s, the crossroad was normally the meeting place. It was the Tipp FM of the community at the time.
Yes, the dances and the get-togethers and all of that.
The dances and all of that. Now, 2 things are important. One is that Finn's Cross today is a 4-road junction. But in 1840, it wasn't a 4-road junction. It was 2 T-junctions. The road coming from the Puckane side is where the existing 4-road junction is, but the road on the other side, which was going to Neenah, it entered onto that road about 50 yards. So there were actually 2 T-junctions. So which cross was Finn's Cross is number 1. But number 2, what did the Finns do? Because when I go through all the records of the Finns in Australia, the Finn family, they all went to Australia. And when I go to their records, there is no reference whatsoever of a connection to music, song, or dance.
So you're wondering why the crossroads was called after this family then? Is that
I'm
it?
wondering why the community gifted the name to the crossroads.
All right, okay. And do you want people to get in touch with you where this is concerned, Ray?
Well, what is the best way to do that? I don't have any...
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. We'll ask them to get in touch with Leanne and we can pass on the details to you then. So if they want to call us on 1800 938 007, if they have any information about the association of the Finn family to this particular crossroads near Ballyhogan.
That's correct.
Is that okay?
Finn's Cross is actually in Ballyhogan. It's in the townland of Ballyhogan.
Okay. Which isn't too far from Puckane.
It isn't too far from Puckane, and it isn't too far from Ballycommon, and it isn't too far from Nye. It's a very rural area.
Very good. Well, we'd be very interested to hear from people on that, and we'll get back to you on it, and we'll see if we can tie all of that up, Ray. Really good to talk to you today, and thank you for your time. That's Raphael Hogan speaking to us there from County Leitrim, but of course his background in lovely Ballyhogan in North Tipp. We'll take a break, back in just a moment.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckane, now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the Expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long-wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puckane. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Join the conversation in Tipperary. Contact us through Facebook, Twitter, or email tiptoday@tippfm.com.
Now we continue with our Tales from the Road with musician Gay Brazel. Good morning to you, Gay.
Good morning, Frank.
And good to talk to you. Have you been chatting to musicians since we had the first episode of this? Is there concern in the music community out there that we might break confidences and tell tales, do you think?
Well, I had one friend who said, you want to be careful now what you do. I said it's okay. Fran has an eject button that his first finger of his right hand is constantly on.
You see, I might be too interested in hearing the gossip though. You see, that's what it is. When last we spoke, you spoke to us about that incident in the Royal Albert Hall of all places with yourself and Johnny McAvoy, I think it was.
That's right.
Had you a tag?
Yeah, just it wasn't all bad. Someone said to me, so you never got to play a note in the Royal Albert Hall? No, I said, that's not correct. I said, we were booked. It was the Cowboys were booked. But I was asked by Johnny, would I stand in with him? And then I had no power in my amp and I had to walk off stage. No, there was a good ending. Good friend of mine, Johnny Jones, a great singer from Tipp Town, long gone, fabulous singer and a great guy. He
was
called
Johnny
me,
the Cowboys?
No, but he called me about 2 weeks after, and he said, Gay, did you see the Melody Maker? Now, I used to buy the Melody Maker and the New Musical Express to keep up with what was going on in the music world in England. I said, no, I didn't see the most recent copy. He said, go and get it. He said, so I got it. We got a great review. The Cowboys got a brilliant review for the gig that we had done. Yeah.
Brilliant, Johnny. Yeah, I'm delighted to hear you mention Johnny Jones.
Yeah, fabulous.
He was one of my favourite singers.
He was
used to sing both sides now. Beautiful. Sides.
Yeah. He was with the McDowell Junior Band, I think.
Was he indeed?
I think he was, yeah.
Was he? Fair play. So, and were you able to benefit from that appearance on the...
Yeah,
Albert Hall then?
Yeah, it was good. It was good for the band, It really was. Now, there wouldn't be too many people, our followers wouldn't have been reading the New Musical or the Melody Maker, but it did.
Because it was a rock magazine, basically.
It basically was. I was gobsmacked to even see, and I had a pedal steel guitar, Fran. That's all I'll say. At the time, I never considered myself to be a great exponent of the pedal steel because it's kind of a head wrecking instrument. But they actually mentioned, because it was so rare, I suppose. And even Patsy Powell, her manager, approached me in the dressing room after the gig, and he said, Patsy, I'd like to see you in her dressing room, and you can take your finger off the red button, Fran. It's all respectable. No, she actually offered me a job, and I know why. It's because I had a pedal steel guitar, and they were rare. At the time, there was only a few players in England, and she was probably one of the most respected country singers in England at the time. Yeah, Patsy Powell and the Playboys.
My God, if that had worked out, we wouldn't see light of you.
But you know what? There were several reasons I didn't want to leave the Cowboys for a start. I was enjoying with the boys at the time, and didn't want to leave home either.
You want to talk to us today about a soldier and the singer?
Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
After Brendan left Tweed and he formed the Paddies, then Tweed had changed direction, and we had a great singer called Miranda. And we were up north. At this stage, we had a converted 53-seater coach, just to bring the gear and ourselves, because we had a huge PA, and we thought it would be the best way of touring instead of two vehicles on the road. Yeah. So we were coming from a gig up north, probably 1987, 88, I would say, maybe even later. And next thing we saw the red torch swinging across in front of us in the dark, which was the usual British Army checkpoint.
But the fear of God in you, wouldn't it?
It would, because the UVF used exactly the same, and we were just hoping that it wasn't the UVF, because they would blackguard you apart from anything. So anyway, Ken, our driver, Ken Blackmore, opened down the window, and the sergeant said, gave him his driver's license or his passport, and then he said, "Do you mind if we come on board?" Ken said, "Sure," and he opened the door for him. So this soldier came on with his machine gun, kind of turned down, not faced at anybody, and blackened the face, and looked around, and then Miranda was in the second seat, and he said, "Is your name Miranda?" She said, "It is," and she looked up at him in kind of shock. "Would you mind stepping off the bus?" he said. So we were really, freaked out at what was this about. So as we looked outside the bus, suddenly she had her arms around him, and he had his arms around her, and she was hugging.
Wow!
And the machine gun lying by his side. And we said, "What's going on here?" But it appears it was her cousin that she hadn't seen for so many years.
My God, what a coincidence.
He had left home, and any time they had inquired about him, the family just said, "Yeah, well, he went to London. He has a job that he doesn't really get time off to come home." But in actual fact, he was working in London, and then he had joined the British Army for a better career and to learn a new trade, which you could. It was a good career, but unfortunately he landed back in his own country in the north of Ireland. But I'll never forget it. And
it must have been very emotional for
her. It was.
Even
to this day, we get a bit choked up telling the story. But Miranda's in Spain now, has a successful career of her own, and her daughter, Tamara, has a new single coming out. Yeah, so
isn't it interesting? And of course, the trips up the north. I mean, I remember when you'd see that light in front of you when you were driving. It was so frightening. In light of what happened with the Miami.
It was. And we had several incidents. I know when I was with the Ree McCoy, we were going across the bridge into Derry, and it was pouring rain, and it was the UVF. It wasn't the British Army.
Yeah.
Now, some of them would have khaki jackets, and they'd be trying to delude you into thinking.
It was hard to tell the difference.
It was.
Times, wasn't it? Yeah.
But the minute they heard as they said, Fenian accents out and take out all your gear. So empty all the equipment out in the pouring rain out in the middle of the bridge, and then they just got back into their car and drove off. And
so it was just badness.
Just pure,
really,
just badness. Yeah.
At that stage, what were the gigs like up there, though?
They were great. I mean, they were well attended. There was very few places. I remember playing the GAA club in Oma with Tweed one night, and we always did well there, and it was a great gig. But we stopped the gig, and we were so used to playing Northern Ireland gigs where you would not play any national anthem, Queen or the Soldier Song.
Yes.
You just say goodnight and thank you. And we finished up our last song, and we said goodnight and thanks, look forward to seeing you again soon. And nobody moved on the table. There was about 800 people there.
Wow.
And they all just stood looking up, and I started to take out jack plug out of the guitar, and I said to the guys, "It's a bit strange." Then one of the staff rushed up to the side of the stage and said, "Guys, you got to play the anthem, the national anthem, the Soldier Song." So we had the PA turned off and everything, so we had to
turn it all back on.
Turn it all back on. But then
they were not going to leave it.
No, they weren't. And there was another band who had refused to play it, and when they came out, their tires were slashed.
Wow!
In their wagon, yeah.
It was a volatile.
It
time,
was.
It
was. Yeah. It was. I remember one incident. The opposite happened. Barry Woods was our keyboard player, and we had a residency in a club on O'Connell Street every Monday night. And the first Monday we played it, came to the national anthem, and there were the times when you did play the national anthem in the south. And Barry was from Belfast, and went to play the national anthem, and Barry went straight into the Queen.
Oh Lord!
And we looked at him and said, "Barry, the Soldier Song, the Irish national anthem." Yeah, what? And he got a blank, obviously, went back into the Queen again.
Ouch.
And at this stage, there was a few fellas starting to wave fists from the floor.
I can well imagine it.
But he corrected it with an embarrassed face, and off we went into the... Oh, man.
Well, just tell us, I mean, the awfulness of what happened to the Miami, but the impact on the business, Gay, what was what?
It was a complete shutdown for any entertainer. Not even the bands. Like if you were a comedian or any type of performance and you were from the south, you just didn't cross the border. And it did flatten the business for quite a long time. And even eventually, there were some of the best dates were in the north. Some of the best gigs.
Huge crowds.
Yeah. And from a financial point of view, a full-time musician, we had a meeting with the guys and they said, look, okay, let's go back. And there was a few gigs asked us to go back and they said, look, we'll give you an escort from the border to the gig and back to the border. And we did that. And we thankfully, nothing...
And can you remember that first gig back?
It was in Cookstown,
was it? Yeah.
In County Tyrone, yeah.
So that must have been a time of great...
It was. I remember previous to that when I was with the Real McCoy, and if you played the Bogside, there was a great gig in the Bogside in Derry, and you were now entering free Derry, and there were actually iron gates. Even the British Army weren't inclined to go in there, even in their armoured cars. And we were told, stop at the gate, and the car flashed 3 times, follow that car into the gig and the same escort back out. But some of it wouldn't have been comfortable now, Fran.
I know, yeah. I did some of them where you'd end up on the unapproved roads.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, and the roads would be blocked with these concrete things and you'd have to transfer to another van to get to the
That's
gig.
right.
Frightening
That's
stuff,
right.
you know.
I remember we lost our way one night and we were on this small, really narrow road with the grass growing down the middle of it.
Yeah.
And trying to find our way to the border, and we stopped, and there were, whatever way we looked anyway, there was a load of guys in the field with guns. They were actually doing weapon training.
My God.
Yeah. But when they heard our accents, they just said, look, get out of here, you're not supposed to be on this road. And they told Ken what direction to go.
And what about families? I mean, what did families make of musicians going up north? And I mean, it must have been scary.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But as I say, if you were a full-time musician,
it was part of the
wages to be paid and the bank manager to be looked after, and you just sometimes, well, it did become quite peaceful as a result. Security was stepped up.
Yeah.
On the border and in patrols at night and stuff. So it was pretty.
Of course, yeah. We remember thinking how exotic Tweed were because you had the 52-seater bus when most of us were going around in sort of in cold transit vans and the like. But I have a feeling it wasn't all it was cracked up to be.
No, it wasn't, no, because the maintenance on the bus, and our driver, Ken Blackmore, who was mechanic as well, would tell you that there was constant maintenance. And, you know, I mean, it wasn't a year-old bus.
Yeah.
We didn't have that kind of money to dosh out, but it was decent enough. It was a comfortable way of travelling, all right, and it did make sense. But
because when people look back, I mean, we look back on travelling for hours and hours in yokes with no heating in them, and you know,
I remember
badly maintained.
Yeah, I remember going to a gig in a hired van one night, and the heater wasn't working in the van, and I was able to scrape the frost off the inside of the window after the gig going home.
Do you know the other thing I wanted to talk to you about? I mean, we all find it very easy now to locate instruments and the best of instruments and all of that. And in fact, we can get them from anywhere around the world with the way things are gone now. But back then, if you wanted to get good instruments, was that difficult at the time?
Actually, to something that I wanted to speak to you about, Fran. In Carrick, there was a TV dealer, electrical shop Bertie Batty, God be good to him, he's long gone. But Bertie had an arrangement with the musicians in town. At this stage, televisions were being rented for, say, 2 and 6 a week, because a lot of people couldn't afford to buy a television when they came out first, relatively speaking to the income at the time. So Bertie would rent, but he also, and he had the little red book where you paid off 10 shillings a week or whatever if you bought one. So our band leader, Jim Grace of the Cowboys at the time, was a good friend of his, and when I joined, the guitar I had wasn't up to too much, and he said, you need a better instrument. So I went into Bertie, and Bertie said, sure, we'll go to Dublin next week, and you pick out whatever you want in Walton's. So up we went, and into Walton's, and I picked out, it was a Fender Jaguar, which Clem Quillen, who was an early idol of mine from the Miami, he played one, and if it was good enough for him, surely it was going to do me. So, beautiful new instrument. So Bertie went up and did the business and this was about 10 to 1 in the day. Now Bertie had gone up, he had an estate car to collect lots of spare parts for his business in Carrick, like tubes for repairing televisions and remember toasters, you could put the element, you could replace the element in a toaster.
Oh,
those were the days when we fixed things. Yeah. But anyway, Bertie said, listen, we'll go for a bit of lunch. Do you want to take the guitar now, or do you want to come back and play it a bit more? But I had my mind made up, and he had the deal done. Do you know what? I said, Bertie, before we go home, I wouldn't mind coming back after lunch and just playing a few more chords on it through the amplifier in Walton's shop. Right, he said. So he parked the car in around the back of Walton's. There was a car park there, and blocks of flats everywhere. And we went for the lunch into Barry's hotel, and he had been out that morning in the electrical supplier, so his car was filled to the... I didn't even know how I was going to fit the guitar in. It was so full of parts that he had bought. Went back to the car anyway. Fly window smashed, car empty.
Oh my God.
Everything. I felt so sorry for him.
But how lucky were you?
How lucky was I that the guitar was still in Walton's shop?
My God.
I'll never forget it. I think at the time it cost £95.
Did it indeed, yeah?
Yeah, but you're right, instruments were difficult to source, and the quality wouldn't have been as good. Like, everyone talks about the old Strats and the old... But some of them weren't as nice to play as some of the instruments you get today.
Of course, yeah. And I know that it's a subject that we could spend a whole slot talking about, but I can never get over that two small speakers filled these ballrooms with up to 2,000 people in them. Whereas now we'd have a ton of gear and maybe 50 people.
Yeah, we would. I think, I don't know, maybe people's perceptions of sound was a bit simpler.
Was that what it was?
Like, it must have been, if you went into a marquee, and unless it was a wet night outside, you didn't get a good sound in a marquee. The rain kind of sealed the canvas in such a way that the sound would transmit down towards the end better. But like with two
crazy boxes as they used to call them at the time. And we have to talk about that in more detail.
We will, Fran.
Another one. Lovely to talk to you again. Thanks very much
you too, Fran.
for
Thank you.
coming into us with Tales from the Road that has musicians shivering around the county in case we tell other kinds of stories. But there you go. News and information is on the way.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Now, we're still getting in commentary on the piece with Cynthia Nivaraku earlier on today. A lot of stuff in that's kind of insulting in some ways. I'm not going to read that out. But Austin was on, and he's a big fan of Cynthia. He said Cynthia deserves a medal. She had the measure of you, Fran, a.k.a. Alan. And he said, that's what we want. Passionate, intelligent politicians. So there you go. That's Austin, who is obviously a big fan of Cynthia's. And let us move on, because Thurles Golf Club, in association with liver transplant recipient Willie O'Gorman, holding a very special coffee morning this coming Friday, March 6th, in aid of the liver transplant unit at St. Vincent's Hospital in Dublin. I'm glad to be joined in the studio now by Willie O'Gorman himself. Good morning to you, Willie.
Good morning, Fran.
And it's good to talk to you today. And
Great, thank you.
Good to see you. Will you come a little closer to that for me?
I will.
Will you tell me about your own journey? Because you had a liver transplant. When Willie?
On the 18th of October last year, 2025.
My God,
and I'm
you're looking so well now.
I am fantastic, Fran. I have a new life, totally new start in life. You cannot believe the changes that a liver transplant brings.
Well, it must do, because you look so healthy. Will you take me back to what started to go wrong and when it started to go wrong for you?
I'm a part-time farmer, but I also had a full-time job working as a sales manager in a very, very busy environment, a steel stockholding company in Kilkenny. And it was a very, very stressful job, and I was always under stress and pressure, but I just managed to cope with it. But as I approached my 50s, I just said, maybe it's time I had a quick check-up at my GP, see how I'm going. He did the basic check-up, and he discovered there was some anomaly in my blood results and advised me to go further and just get a bit of more help to see what was wrong with my blood. So I did met various consultants who did cancer checkups, who checked that I had a rare form of blood cancer, who did various things, and these were quite worrying at the time. But they came back to me and said, no, it's not cancer, but there is still something very seriously wrong with your blood. And we advise you to go to another consultant, a liver consultant. And they offered me, you can either go to Dublin or go to Cork University Hospital. So I opted for Cork, and where I met a lovely lady, specialist down there called Orla Crosby. And she took me through a range of tests. And in 2017, late in the year, she told me I had liver failure. Now, liver failure, as she explained to me, is a fatal condition, and that I would get anything from 1 to 7 years in my life left. And she explained to me why there was such a variation in your life expectancy. Said there are many, many serious complications associated with liver failure. Your liver is basically the filter that filters all the blood going to the various organs and vessels and parts of your body. And when the blood going there to those organs is not right, those organs start to fail, and there are various complications attached, and you can run the risk of some of those conditions that are actually fatal in their own right.
And just a couple of details. Before you had the blood tests, were you suffering physically in any way?
I had heard recommendation that people approaching 50
should go for it.
But
I mean, you weren't in pain?
I was a bit tired maybe.
Right.
But then again, I put it down to the fact that I was working long hours, quite a stressful job, and having working long hours on the farm at home in the night when I went home. I just felt I'm tired, But it's just like, there's no problem here, I can keep going.
And Willie, when the consultant told you then how serious this was, I mean, life expectancy, as she said, between 1 and 7 years, did that hit you like a train? I mean, how?
No doubt about it. But my wife, Marie, who is a nurse by qualification, was at my side every step of the way. And some of the technical stuff that I couldn't pick up on, she would explain it to me and explain what the doctor was saying and help me to remember all the implications. But it did hit me like a train. But as the consultant told me, you're not, while we've diagnosed you with liver failure, you can still stay going. You're okay at the moment. So I was getting tired, but I kept going, until eventually the first major thing kicked in.
And what was that?
I woke up one night with massive pain in my upper chest, and I was in serious agony. And my wife did a few quick checks and realised it wasn't my heart, but I was in intense pain. So she rang for an ambulance. I was taken down to Clonmel, where the people there did great work in relieving my pain and admitting me to the ward. And I was there meeting some of the specialists there, and they ran various tests on me, but I was put on antibiotics immediately. I initially recovered, but they found that the antibiotics, from them taking blood levels every day, the antibiotics weren't working like they should be. So the strength of the antibiotics was increased, and the number of drips I got every day was increased, but it still wasn't coming under control. My infection was getting worse. While they were controlling the pain, my infection was getting worse and worse. But there was, I don't know whether it was by chance or by luck, there was a change in personnel. The medical staff rotate, as you know, and different doctors come into you and different consultants. A new consultant came to me and said he was taken over from the other man.
Yes.
And he was reading my notes, and he wanted to perform a scope, an upper chest scope, down to see, could he see what was wrong, what was causing the infection. I was taken to theatre and anaesthetised, but I didn't realise till I recovered afterwards, that in the process, he had discovered a large collection of infection in my upper abdominal area. And in the process of the surgery, he managed to take out some of that infection. And he put me on a different range of antibiotics. And instead of dying in a few days, I started to recover. I was there for another...
And sorry, Willie, did you know that you were dying? Did you know?
I knew I was seriously sick.
You? Yeah.
And some of the nurses had said to my wife that the next few days are very, very serious here, at the rate that his infection is getting worse. So... my wife was aware of it. She just, we chatted, and I knew I was getting worse, and I felt worse, and I'd gone to a point that I couldn't get up out of bed. So I knew I was declining, and I knew it was serious.
In your head at that point, how were you feeling? How was your head at that point? Were you resigned to the fact that you were?
No, I wasn't quite resigned at that time.
Yeah.
I wanted to live on and get through this, as I had no preparations made for dying. I wanted to get through this, and I was just, hoping, praying that I would make it through this. But
when did the option of a transplant, who mentioned that to you
my
first?
My original consultant in Cork told me the only cure for liver disease is a transplant. But that's a slow process in getting approved, and transplants are done they're very rare, which we'll talk about later, the reason for them being rare, but she said it's a long road. It's a long road, and you may not be able to get a transplant for years if you're lucky enough to get one.
So how long were you waiting for a transplant?
I was waiting from 2017 to 2025.
So years and years.
Years and years, and I was slowly getting worse, to a point where people didn't actually physically recognise me. I had changed so much in appearance. I'm back now to resembling what I did resemble in my youth, but I had changed into a walking, not corpse isn't the right word, but I resembled a walking dead person.
When did you get the phone call? When did you find out? The phone call
was very, very unusual in the way it happened. On a previous visit to Vincent's in Dublin, my consultant up there.
Yeah.
Now, supposed to put it in context, when I went up to that consultant first, maybe in 23 or 24. They put me through a range of tests to assess whether I would be suitable for a transplant. But they came back to me and said I wasn't going to be moved onto the active transplant list because they felt I wasn't right. My bloods were still wrong. I had a brain hemorrhage in Cork on another occasion, which was quite serious. I was in a coma for 6 or 8 weeks.
But not related, was that?
It was related.
Oh, it was related.
Okay. Yeah, it's one of there's a symptom of liver disease called encephalopathy, a word I can't pronounce too well.
Yeah.
But a lot of the symptoms of that, including tremor, lack of control, disorientation, confusion, and if it gets really bad, you go into a kind of a coma, and you have a brain bleed, and that take you into a coma. I went into that thing, on doing research afterwards when I recovered. I found there was an 80% chance of mortality when you get to that stage. And somehow or other, I had managed to get through that after a period of 8 weeks out of this world in Cork. But they looked after me so well down there, they got me through this.
So take me then to the consultant telling you that you couldn't get on the main list. When did you get on that list? I ended up after a bleed back down in University of Cork.
And I met my original consultant who reviewed me and said she would make contact with Dublin again to try and get me retested to see could you get me on the active transplant list. They did the retest, and lucky enough, I was approved in February of 25 to go onto the active transplant list. So 7 months later, but I was declining badly in that 7 months, but I got the phone call. And it was by chance. I had been told to go and get a test done in Cork and to go to Dublin the next day for 2 tests, 2 different areas. And on the Friday of that week, and I was literally wrecked after the 2 days previously, a phone call came. My wife answered. It was the coordinator in Dublin chatting to her, asking her how I got on in Cork. And then she asked to speak to me. And she just said, are you doing that in the afternoon, Willie? I said, no plans. She said, can you come back up to Dublin again? I said, why? It's a Friday afternoon. No, you don't want me up there till 7 o'clock, you said. I said, that's very unusual. Well, she said, look, we have to do a few more tests on you, and there is a slight chance of a transplant over the weekend. But we need to do some tests on you first. Can you be up here at 7 o'clock? I said, fine, but I was wondering what kind of tests are they doing now? And a slight chance of a transplant. So proceeded up along anyway, got a phone call when we were up around Portlaoise, 5 o'clock in the evening, to say, where are you? And are you on the way up? I said, yes. That's great. Hung up, and about 20 minutes later the phone rang again, the same number, the coordinator in Dublin. She says, we're after getting a delay here. All your tests are being put back. If you're here at 7, or now at 9, she says, be here at 9. And go in and get something to eat somewhere on the journey.
Yeah.
I said, you're going to be here all night, she says, doing tests, and we want you to eat.
Yeah.
I said to myself, the transplant is definitely off now if they want me to eat. So I went up anyway and admitted to St. Bridget's ward, and they brought me in and got me into a bed and explained to me there was paperwork and tests to be done. I did it. My wife was there with me. We helped me to get through it. And so then they came back a couple of hours later and said, just to tell you that you have been selected for the transplant at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Wow.
That's, I was in the bed. They said, you may now put on those gowns over there, and we want you to sleep, and we're going to give you a little, put in
intravenous.
And we're going to give you something to help you to sleep. And so they got me to sign some more paperwork and whatever else, and I fell asleep. I woke up in a different area, and they told me I was in the area prior to theatre, and they wanted me to stand up and sit up on this trolley over here, which I did. Now, I had been in contact with people who had this, and they said that's one of the scariest things you're going to have to do in your head, because you know you're going to be, there is a chance of this operation not working out and you will die during this operation, or if it does work out, you're going to get a new life, but there is a chance you're leaving the world behind you.
And how does that make you feel?
The man that told me watch out for that one, but I had become resigned to the fact that it was my only chance.
This was it.
It was our bust, that's that expression.
So you had your transplant
and woke up, and I was wondering why all the different pipes and attachments that they told me would be attached to me when I'd wake up weren't there. And I found out from them that the transplant procedure had taken longer than they anticipated. They had met difficulty, but they took 2 hours longer than they planned. An 8-hour operation normally took 10 hours with the difficulty they had met. And they said, because you were on the table for so much longer, received so much extra medication, you were in ICU and HDU for a lot longer than we anticipated. It's now 3 days since your operation, but you're coming back to us. And our initial tests are showing you're good.
So you were out of it for 3 days?
I was out of it for 3 days after the
Incredible.
And they had removed a lot of the paraphernalia of the surgery, and I had only a few basic oxygen and other tubes attached.
So this was last October, and then in terms of recovery then?
Within 2 weeks I was home. I had learned to walk again. encephalopathy has so many different things. Your walk goes, your balance goes. And they told me all those would slowly come back to me over a period after the operation. And after 6 to 9 months, you would be a totally new person. Now, I'm only 4 months after my operation, but I feel so good
but
already.
You look so healthy, Willie.
I can walk properly again. I'm not shuffling along. I'm not losing my balance. I can speak properly again. You know, all those things were gone. A simple thing like writing my signature had disappeared.
Do you think about, or do you know anything about your donor?
I think about him or her. I know absolutely nothing about him. I'm told there is a process where the hospital will make contact when they feel it's appropriate with the donor's relatives, and if they wish to make contact with the organ recipient, and they will tell me, yes, you can contact the family.
Yes.
And there's a procedure for doing it, and they will supervise the first communication. And if the people are happy at both sides, we are free to meet up and whatever.
But people often throw about the phrase "a new lease of life," but this is.
It doesn't even that phrase doesn't even cover it, what I feel. Instead of growing old, I'm now growing young again. Hard to explain that feeling. It was like, if you're from farming terms, if you let a bunch of calves out the field, they go mad. They jump and bounce all over the place. I just feel like that. I have a new life. I can hop around the place.
And have you a new view of life?
Oh, I have. Totally. I have a bucket list of the things now that I want to do in life. I have decided to leave a lot of the stresses and strains that I had in my past life away, not bother with them anymore, and just focus on living a good life, happy life with my family, my son, my wife, who were so steadfast and they're helping me through all these difficult times and got me through it. And I just cannot say thank you enough to all the professional medical people that helped me on the road. And when I was bad, they were there helping me through it. And
Willie, our mutual friend Eamon O'Dwyer told me about your story, but to hear it from you personally it's an incredible story. It really is. Fundraiser then.
To pay something back and give others the same chance that I got.
Yes.
Only 27 transplants were done in Ireland last year, which is a very, very low number. In the past, they were able to do 50, 60. For some reason or other, the new legislation is not working correctly. Whether it's matter is the phrasing of it. When you renew your driver's license, you tick a box confirming that you agree with the legislation saying you wish to be an organ donor.
Yes.
But next of kin consent is required for the procedure to take place, for the organ transplantation process to proceed.
Yeah.
And if the medical people can't get that particular consent quick enough, the opportunity of transplant is lost. Now, whether that's the actual reason why the number of transplants have gone down, I'm only surmising at. I'm not sure, but the number has gone down to 27 last year, and I was one of the lucky 27 last year in a population of 4 or 5 million people. So it's
no wonder you're feeling particularly lucky. Have you communication with others who were in your predicament?
Prior and even since.
Yeah.
When I was in the ward in St. Bridget's, days after the transplant, my physio was working on me, trying to get me walking. I was walking up and down the corridor. I could look into other wards or other rooms on the corridor and see various patients before and after transplant. My physio came back to me when she was completed with me after 5 days, and I was walking, climbing stairs, feeling good. She said, "I want to buy something off you." And I just said, "What?" She says, "Your positive attitude," she says. "There are patients down here who have had transplants earlier than you and are sick, but they have lost the positivity," she says, "that you seem to have in buckets. I'd like to buy some from you," says, "and give it to those patients," she said.
But I can understand, because even to meet you today, you're so positive. It's fantastic. So everybody welcome where the golf club is concerned then?
Yes, totally.
Right.
Totally,
it's a coffee morning.
It's a fundraiser. It's a coffee morning where everyone is welcome to come in and support us and support St. Vincent's Foundation.
Yeah.
And many thanks to the golf club in Thurles for organising this for me. I cannot thank them, all the committees, enough for help.
And it's from 10:30 until 1:30, isn't it?
Correct. And as you said, everyone is welcome.
Yeah, and it's all for St. Vincent's Foundation.
St. Vincent's Foundation looks after the St. Vincent's Hospital, but also the charity needs of the Blackrock Clinic. So it's a very, very large hospital group.
Yes.
And you just mark, if you decide to donate online, I will leave the details here with yourself. And
that's St. Vincent's Foundation.
And it's svf.ie if you want to look it up online, and all the procedure for if you wish to make a donation to help people through this difficult process.
Programs like this, we hit the HSE fairly hard. We hit and deservedly so at times. But your experience was what?
Just to enlarge on that topic, you are 100% right. The HSE gets a lot of coverage for the things they get wrong,
the negative stuff.
Yeah. But they don't receive the praise and the acclaim they deserve. And they are constantly saving lives on a daily basis, taking away people's pain, helping them through the pain of the affliction. And like St. Vincent's Hospital has 7,000 staff up there. It's a huge entity that looks after a wide range of afflictions, and there's 200 consultants operating up there. But as you understand, HSE has certain budgets, it supplies, and not all of the requirements that the hospital needs. The shortfall has to be raised up by charitable means.
Right, so that's why you're fundraising.
Yeah.
What is most important to you? What is it that you can do now that you couldn't do 6 or 7 months ago?
I have decided I need to promote the issue of next of kin awareness, that if an individual, unfortunately in tragic circumstances, is on life support in a hospital, the medical team won't approach people that are bereaved because for obvious reasons they can't approach a person that's deep in grief. But next of kin approval is required for the process of donation to commence. And just to get that point across to people. So if you can tell your next of kin while you're currently live and healthy and everything is going well,
what your wishes are.
What your wishes are, right?
Yeah.
And then the next of kin will be aware that, unfortunately, now you were in a position, but they can approve prior maybe to you going, that they know that your wishes were to donate organs.
And give us another piece of advice, because you spoke to me at the very start and you said about you were working in a stressful situation, like many of us are.
Yeah.
Have you advice for people out there who feel stressed and who are overworking and maybe burning out and that? Have you advice for them?
Well, the first advice is to go to your GP and just ask them their opinion. Have a chat with your friends. Now, my good friend Eamon O'Dwyer, who I can tell you about later, we often had chats about the difficulties of approaching old age and the difficulties that were thrown up. But I'll tell you a little about that later. But anyway, talk to your GP, get advice from your family and friends, maybe make a few changes. I had the choice between stopping farming, lease the farm, and stay going in the job. But I reckoned in my own head, the job I was doing was more stressful than the farm, which I actually liked working with. And maybe I was at a stage in life I didn't need the same income anymore, and that I could survive on whatever bit was coming off the farm.
Right.
And I had a workplace pension from the other job, and combining the two, I'd be all right.
Right. So your advice is to look at what you're doing.
Assess your situation. Assess what's putting you under stress. See what you can change to reduce your stress. Have a chat with your family and next of kin about what you're feeling, what your feelings are, that you're under pressure. Can we do anything to change a few things? And just have that conversation with your family. Have a chat with your employers. Maybe they can move you or take away some of your stress. Maybe make your own decisions, but have a think about it.
But as in your own case, stress can lead to all sorts of complications.
I don't know that it lead to this now, Frank. Fran. It was just down to drink is always associated with
liver,
liver, yes. But it's not necessarily always the case. There are many other issues that cause liver failure.
And that wasn't the case where you were concerned.
No, it wasn't. It was some of the other issues had caused my liver to fail.
All right, well, it was lovely to meet you, Willie, and
Thank you,
I hope that goes extremely well. This coming Friday morning, 10:30 until 1:30, everybody welcome to attend. It's Thurles Golf Club Coffee Morning in aid of Liver Transplant Unit at St. Vincent's Hospital.
And thank you very much, Fran.
Great to see
and
you,
thank
Willie.
you to Eamon O'Dwyer for organising this.
No problem at all. He blackmails me into all sorts of stuff, you see. He knows too much about me,
You don't
Willie.
know the other side to Eamon O'Dwyer. He's a character.
I can't wait to find it.
Yeah, he's a character. Right? It's best done off here. It's best done off here.
Good to see you, Willie. Thanks
Thank you,
very
Fran.
much indeed.
Thank
We
you
wish
very
you
much
well.
again.
Thank you. We'll take a break back in just a moment.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tip today on 1-800-938-007.
Geraldine is in Roscrea. She says, I love the show, Fran, but that man Willie is a true inspiration. Best of health and happiness to him for the future. And so say all of us. Leanne is with me. Leanne, this is the first of our notice board.
Yeah, and we have a good loads of stuff in, which is absolutely brilliant. So if anyone has any events coming up or anything they want a mention given to specifically on Tip Today,
Yes.
pop them into us on WhatsApp.
This is quite different to our community diary, which runs right throughout all of the other
Yes.
programming. But this is specifically people who make contact with us
Yes.
here on the programme. Okay. Do you want to run through what you have?
Yeah, so the Forge players have their play Cash on Delivery the 4th of March to the 7th of March at the Excel in Tipperary, and it starts at 8 p.m. So you can get in contact for tickets on the box office number, which is 062 80520, and that's in from Kathleen Prendergast. And then as well this week, the 2026 Finding a Voice Music Festival is taking place in Clonmel from the 5th to the 8th of March. Thursday is at 6:30 and it is also running through Sunday to 6:30.
That's
And
very exciting. That.
yeah, it's brilliant. And all the details, there's loads of different locations, loads of different performances. It's all on the County Council website, and Cleona Maher let us know about that. So the Alzheimer's Society Clonmel branch with Coonsara Women's Refuge Clonmel, they're having a table quiz in Carey's Bar tomorrow night at 8 p.m. and they've all the details on Facebook for that if you want to get involved. Now this one, I got such a laugh when I saw this one come in. But Ty Devery is back with a brand new unhinged comedy show, Pints, Dentures and Rock and Roll. And they're fully out of control.
Story of my life, Dad.
So that's in from Paddy. It's taking place on Saturday the 11th of April at 8 p.m. and all the details are on the Thurles Arts Office website. There's a big breakfast morning for Keane Mullins at Clarehan Community Hall on Sunday, March 14th at 11, and Mary in Clarehan wanted to let us know about that. And Siobhan got on to let us know Place for You are having a vintage tea in aid of the childhood cancer on March 12th from 10 to 12:30.
Very good. A couple of dancing dates as well. My friend Paddy Doyle, he is hosting Clonmore tonight. Fitzpatrick's in Clonmore, and Paddy Tracy is going to be supplying the music there on this coming Sunday. I know in Feathert, Peter Burke is going to be performing, and tonight in Bulgadon Castle in Kilmallock, the singing Jarvey, the great Jerry Healy, is going to be there. So lots of dancing out there as well. So just in terms of people getting in touch, if they have something they'd like us to mention, then
yeah, if you have something you want us to mention, you can email tiptoday@tipfm.com or send in a WhatsApp and put either my name on it or Fran's name. And as well as that, if you need any further details on any of the stuff we've mentioned, you can ring the phone number and I'll be happy to pass on everything I have.
all right, there's still lots and lots of stuff coming into us, but sadly we are just about out of time. Huge response to Cynthia Neveriku today.
Yeah, it kind of went off.
Only Alan from now on.
Yeah, Alan Curry presenting Tip Today.
Has a certain ring to it, all right. But yeah, huge response.
Huge reaction, and we'll get back to it all, and we'll have contributors on as well. We got a lot done there, and that's in a small amount of time.
Didn't we just indeed? All right, thanks for that, Leanne. Leanne produced Stephen Has the Time done on the lunchtime show. This is Alan saying goodbye, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Look after yourselves, won't you? Bye bye.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, puck on. See slatterysgarage.ie.